Itt vagyunk a London Investor Show-n, ami az egyik legnagyobb befektetői konferencia az Egyesült Királyságban. Minden évben megrendezik, már az elmúlt több mint 10 évben ezt folyamatosan, és most arról fogunk nektek beszámolni, hogy itt mi is történik, mik a legújabb trendek, és mik azok, amik egyébként Magyarországra nem biztos, hogy eljutnak, de mégis nagyon-nagyon fontos információk. Gyertek, tartsatok velünk! Egész nap rengeteg és nagyon-nagyon hasznos előadást lehetett hallani. Volt szó a technikai és a fundamentális analízis közötti különbségről, és itt hadd emeljek ki egy nagyon-nagyon fontos pontot, amit az egyik előadó mondott, aki egyébként 1986 óta foglalkozik technikai analízissel. Ott még konkrétan elmondta, hogy papír alapon heti szinten kapták meg a csártokat, és arra rajzolgatták föl, majd utána azokat végül a 90-es években komputerizálták, és még ezzel a klasszikus IBM géppel zölden kiírva ott voltak a csártok, és ő beszélt például arról, hogy mi a helyzet a technikai analízissel. De rengeteg ilyen és ehhez hasonló előadásról volt szó, és ő viszont a következőt mondta. A technikai és a fundamentális analízisnél egyetlen egy dolgot kell megegyezni. A fundamentális analízis, tehát ugye a fundamental analysis, az egyetlen egy dologra van, hogy miért. Vagyis miért azt a céget szeretnéd megvenni, miért azt a részvényt szeretnéd megvenni. A technikai analízis pedig egy másik nagyon-nagyon fontos lába ennek, az pedig az, hogy mikor. Ugyanis, amit én is nagyon sokszor el szoktam nektek mondani, az az, hogy jó céget veszünk, akciós áron. És készültünk egyébként 2 darab abszolút exkluzív interjúval is, ugyanis sikerült elkapni a piacnak 2 nagyon-nagyon prominens szereplőit, mind a 2 egyébként előadást tartott, most ebből láthatjátok a teljes vágatlan verziót. Az egyik interjú az Ranjittel készült, aki egyébként a London Stone Securities-nak az ügyvezetője, ők már több mint 15 éve vannak a piacon. Ha esetleg engem is ismersz, tudod, hogy egyébként én is itt kezdtem a karrieremet, tehát egy kicsit talán azt mondom, hogy hazabeszélek. Most ezt az interjút fogjátok látni. Utána pedig a Bszt-től, az egyik ottani investment managertől fogjátok látni az interjút, és mind a 2 interjúban kitérünk arra természetesen, hogy ők mit látnak egy londoni perspektívából, mi várható 2024-ben, mi várható az Egyesült Királysági, mi várható az amerikai, és mi várható az európai gazdaságokban. És természetesen arról is szó lesz, hogy ők mit gondolnak, hogyan érdemes egy kezdő befektetőként a kockázatot kezelni. Nézzük meg ezeket az interjúkat közösen. So it was a great presentation. Thank you, Ranjit. It was brilliant. So I was wondering what you think of the UK and the EU economy. Where it's going to head? What your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I think at the moment there's a slowdown. I think in the UK, Europe, Asia, America. So it's a global slowdown, and I think the reason it's a slowdown is a few things. Number one, interest rates still haven't peaked. So I think we're going to see interest rate rises in the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, and Bank of England. So that's one thing. That's still going to slow things down. Inflation still isn't under control. And because interest rates typically are the main tool to control inflation, the problem now is inflation's high, interest rates are high, the central banks have lost their bullets. I think Europe is probably slightly better than UK at the moment, I would say. I think UK, after Brexit, obviously become isolated, so I think Europe has more power. And of course, I think also the Middle East conflict now is creating problems because that could escalate into higher oil prices. So I think there's a risk that we might see a slowdown globally, and possibly that might tip into recession. So next year,
that would be my next question. Is that obviously everyone is looking for 2024?
Yeah.
How are we going to handle that?
You know what? It's going to be a massive opportunities. That's what I think. I'm always optimistic. I always like walk around with a smile on my face. Like, how's it going? Oh, I lost money. I'm smiling. So you have to always see the good in the bad. And so for me, I think there's going to be a drop in the market. There's going to be a market correction, and then I think what's going to happen is we're going to see an opportunity for investors to kind of take advantage of quite maybe a 5 or 10% correction. But I think it's an opportunity, always an opportunity. Buying the dips, selling the rallies. Retail investors always do the opposite. The market goes down, they panic, and the market goes up, they start buying. So if you reverse that, and just I think it's always helpful to know what you're going to buy now before the crash, because when the crash happens and you see a sea of red, then you panic. Oh my God! But if you've already written down, I always write things down on a piece of paper, and it's really helpful because then I'm like, oh, I said I'm going to buy this. It's down 10%. I'm going to buy it. So that's quite a little trick I use.
Okay. And in terms of, because obviously you thought about, or you mentioned that little market correction, 5 to 10%. You know, who knows, but it's obviously possible. What can retail investors do to manage their risk properly? Or what would be the, okay, maybe it's a tricky question, but what would be the number one advice that you would give a retail investor who wants to manage their risk properly?
Income will save you, because income does two things. Number one, if you have a good income paying stock and the market falls, the shares don't tend to fall much slower than everything else because they have a support. And it's in the book, I explain the strategy behind it. That's one thing. The second thing is, let's just say the market does go down 5 or 10%. If you've got a portfolio that generates 6% in income, you're only going to be down 4%. So it's kind of, so I always say income is the bedrock, the fundamental basis of all strategy. After you've got the income, then hedging, gold, diversification, passive investment trust. But if you want to protect yourself, I think income is the number one thing.
Okay, brilliant. Cheers. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Take care. It's really nice to be here on the London Investor Show. So that was a great speech. Thank you for that. And there's 3 questions that I wanted to mention and I wanted to bring to the Hungarian audience. So the first one is, obviously a lot of people do self-investing, which is great. And what do you think literally the biggest mistake that people do and they shouldn't do?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake is, now we've got the apps and the computer, people constantly logging on, seeing their investments day by day, constantly trading and trying to get the newest trend and researching about artificial intelligence. You know, you've got US tech stocks, and they're constantly playing and tweaking. Whereas I think if you've got a long time horizon, you're investing, I think, to my speech, for more than 7+ years, buy and hold it. Stick to your investment strategy. You've made sure in the first place that you set your goals, you set your time horizon, you set your asset allocation. Be patient, let it be. So many times people log onto their apps because we've got that available information and they're not patient. That's probably just buy and hold. And there will be the odd fund and share out there that will be, you know, a bad egg, but most of the time, let it do its thing. If you see the graphs, you know, there's been so much volatility in the last couple of years. Just let it kind of, do its thing. It's gone well.
Cool. And in terms of the risk taking, because there's like a lot of turmoil in the market, volume is up, volatility is really, really going up. What do you think, what you see in terms of your client base, the risk taking profile? Are they more risk averse? They taking more risk because they see that there's a big opportunity, good opportunity in the market?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, people are quite spooked by the markets because it has been going since the pandemic, the volatility. But I always say to my clients, when it comes to risk taking, break it down into 4 key time horizons. So generally speaking, anything in the kind of 0 to 2, 0 to 3 years, I wouldn't take risk with that because you don't have the time if the market did go down. So there are some good interest rates out there and use them. 2 to 4 years is like a shorter time horizon. So I would say, invest, but maybe not take that much risk. 4 to 7 years is a medium time horizon. And then if you're investing for anything 7+ years, that's where you can afford to be taking a more risk and kind of let it do its own thing, that buy and hold strategy. Break it down into those 4 buckets. You know, it's not all in, you don't need to put all your investments into one product, break it down.
Cool. And just a couple of words in terms of the markets, what you see for 2024, because now it's coming up. A lot of people think, okay, there's going to be a big recession. There's voices, there's going to be no worries, chill out. What's your thought on that?
I mean, no one's got a crystal ball.
Of course, yeah.
Exactly. No one's got a crystal ball. I always say no one knows, and this is why with investing, just take a step back and build a portfolio that can really kind of resilient you to the ups and downs of the market. Because if we look to 2023, no one predicts the war, no one predicted what's going on at the moment with the current war, and no one predicted the artificial intelligence and the US tech stocks. So if you take anything away from today, don't get too hooked on what's happening in the markets. Take a step back and make sure that you've got an investment strategy that will make you resilient.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you. Láthatod tehát első kézből, hogy mit látnak most a piaci szereplők, és szerintem nagyon-nagyon fontos, hogy ezekkel teljes mértékben tisztában legyél. Hogyha pedig ilyen és ehhez hasonló videókat szeretnél látni, akkor arra biztatlak, hogy mindenképpen iratkozz fel az Érthető Pénz csatornára. Én Varga Dani voltam, az Érthető Pénz alapítója. Találkozunk a következő videóban.